Join us on this episode as we chat about the character of coffee, the beauties, and the battles that it brings. I also wonder, have you ever associated clothed with invest? Jocelyn breaks this completely new thought down, and it's pretty cool. And finally, we tackle the tough topic of codependency. We're real excited to dive in with you today. Hello there, I'm Christinejaynes.
And I'm Jocelyn DeWitt. And here's the thing. The God who created all the earth did not call you, set you apart, anoint you, and create you to live an ordinary life. He called you to live an extraordinary one.
Now, Jocelyn and I, we don't have PhDs. We don't have mega ministries. We're just two anointed ladies oversharing about living devoted in the dailies. Welcome to the conversation.
This is Devoted in the Daily.
Welcome to episode 31 of Devoted in the Daily,
Where we are going to bring up the letter C.
C.
All the favorite things.
Because we're alphabetically going through all the things.
We're going through all the things. With letter C, what is your favorite thing that starts with the C? I think we have...
There's a number of C
I was
favorites.
like, a number. I thought maybe I missed something. What is our first favorite? C, are you ready?
Well, I've got a list. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not ready for that. I think we need to end with our absolute favorite.
Oh.
Don't you?
Well, I think...
Oh! Okay, so that's a good point. You can start with your first favorite.
My first favorite is...
You just whispered to me.
Oh, my first favorite. My number one favorite is Christ. Number one favorite.
Christ! Jesus Christ.
The big C.
The big C man is our favorite C ever.
Okay, what's another C? Another C of mine would be camping. Oh, I love to camp.
I put campfires.
Campfires?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. I like that.
Camping, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
You don't like just camping?
I mean...
You guys, she camps like on an island.
Yeah, we
up
do
at
a
Priest
week
Lake
on an island the last several years, and it's like awesome, but it's also like...
Is that a lot of work to prep? Because
yeah, but it's almost, I would almost rather a week than 3 days because you're doing all the work.
And is it dry camping?
Yeah, there's just an outhouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just straight up.
Yeah.
And you have to get there by boat, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so everything you want to bring is up by boat.
Yeah.
With your 4 boys.
We might do a few trips, yeah.
I love it.
The nice thing is I've got 4 boys, so they do most of the labor. The hard labor, I don't have to set up the tent.
Man, I could just think about my next favorite, all the cooking that would happen out there on an island camping over a fire.
It's the prep work.
Yeah. Okay, what's some of your C's besides campfires?
Cheese.
Oh.
I mean, I haven't always been able to do cheese. I've had to have seasons where I have
same,
turned off the dairy. But there are some cheeses that I do pretty good with and I enjoy. Right?
I love cheese.
Candles
Is good. Candles is good.
Great. I have veered away from the chemically fragrance ones and now I'm doing the more, not fragranty ones.
I really like the woodwick. The
woodwick. We can say that.
Woodwick. We said it. Woodwick candles.
Kind of reminds you of a campfire.
They do, and they kind of crackle a little bit. So those are kind of fun.
But I love lighting a candle on a rainy afternoon or in the evening as things are just kind of dying down and making dinner.
I usually have candles going in my kitchen at all times.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because you're kind of told not to do that when you're cooking because then you can't really smell everything you're cooking. But I just like the ambiance of a candle.
Right.
You just
need to switch to non-fragrance ones.
Yeah. And I really like a pine scent. So, it's this.
Sure.
Yes, you are right. Yeah. Non-scented.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unscented, I think is the word.
Non-scented, unscented.
Unscented.
You would be correct.
Celebrations.
We talked about them. You just love all the celebrations.
And Christmas.
See,
I feel like those kind of things,
I love creativity.
Oh.
I love being able to be creative. I love how creative God is and how he's like blessed us with the gift of creativity.
So good.
I love crepes.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of frustrated the other day because I went to a restaurant and saw them using pre-made crepes.
What?
And I was like, if anybody knows me, my face says a lot sometimes. And I think I stare at the kitchen. I was like, what are they doing? I don't know. I was a little bit shocked, but it's all good.
It's all good.
Should we move on to our mutual favorite?
Coffee.
Coffee, so much so.
Coffee. Go ahead. So much
that you got us matching cups for recording days.
I did. Well, because the cup, she likes the iced coffee. She just likes the iced coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, and I go through seasons, but my jars were just not big enough. You know, like I was just giving her these little jars.
Rounding them back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we've got our water in the small cups and we've got our
That's what I had to have my coffee in for a long time, in the small cup. But then she blessed me abundantly with a big C cup and for my coffee.
Yep.
And it's lovely.
We really like coffee. I'd like to transition into our thinking, like what we're thinking segment.
Oh,
now.
Yes, we should.
Because I've been thinking about coffee. I've been thinking about this coffee thing because recently I fasted. I did a fast and coffee was one of the things I fasted. And now I've done coffee fasts before. You know, I've done like a 3-day coffee fast, but this was a longer one.
Mm-hmm,
and I really discovered what an idol I've made coffee to be in my life.
Yep.
I mean, it's like people know when like they associate me almost with coffee. I mean, you will see me with a mug of coffee like almost all the time.
I mean, it says it in your intro. You'll most likely find me with a cup of coffee in my hand.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
You will. So it is something that I like. I really like it. But realizing that like it was harder to get up in the morning for like to meet with Jesus without coffee. And I just that like the gut punch that was to me, like, holy cow, what, Jesus isn't enough? Like my time just with him, I have to have my coffee too. No, that's sick. You know, like it was just really eye-opening to me. And realizing, okay, gosh, and it was good to become so aware of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't need it.
I recently did something very similar to you where I fasted coffee stands.
Yeah.
I fasted coffee multiple times before. Also, you're like, yeah.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Like what you're going to share.
Yeah. So I recently, I have a lot of thoughts about coffee stands, but the realization in the process is I was fasting and the Lord said, you need to fast coffee stands completely. And I was going to go out of town when I did it. And I was like, really? You're going to put me on a red eye flight and not say that I can have coffee while I'm out? Like, this is going to be interesting. Maybe I had a couple Red Bulls, but I said that just for Christine. Maybe there was more than a couple. Anyway, so I fasted the coffee stand. So I would not go to a place and buy any coffee anywhere besides have coffee at home. So he didn't take it all the way away, but purchasing coffee. And this amazing revelation hit me at the end of it.
Okay.
I have a lot of thoughts about coffee stands, but we're not going to go into that. But coffee stands used to be, I grew up on the west side of Washington, and my dad would take us to Tully's and get us mochas. Okay. Because he loved the mochas. And so that's where I first started having like iced coffee with chocolate and cream and like all the things.
Okay.
And it was a stronghold. Like it was a stronghold because it was a cherished memory that I had. It was a bonding time that I had. It was a go out on the weekend, get your coffee. And then it turned into get your coffee before work, get your coffee on your way to church, get your coffee, in the middle of the day. You need to pick me up, get a coffee. Like it became this snowballing, dependent, idle stronghold that I just was so over. So over. I'm so over it. And I am so over it, let alone the cost. Like, let's not
talk about that.
Let's not even go into that. But it all just kind of snowballed into like, oh, so I created an idol out of something that was from a place of good, right? Out of a good memory, out of just something that I love doing with my dad. And then it just snowballed for literally 30 years.
Wow.
You know, and we live in the Pacific Northwest, so it's everywhere.
It is. And it's good. I'm just saying,
we do like it.
I moved here, it was, I mean, in my old...
Yeah, what was that like?
Well, where we used to live, I would normally just go to Starbucks because you would never know the quality of like the independent shops. Like it was just kind of like, I don't know. So I normally would always look for those, you know, the corporate places.
Oh.
And then when I moved
from California up to the Northwest, the game changed.
I mean, the game changed.
It does.
This coffee, I mean, they know here in the Pacific Northwest.
They know it.
They know a thing or two.
Yep.
And these little coffee stands, these little independent coffee shops and cafes, they know their stuff, and they did good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I 100%. It's good, and it can be a problem. Right. And that's something you and I talk about this a lot. It's something I'm continuously always working on. So now when I think about a coffee stand, I think I don't need it. I don't go anymore really unless the Lord's like, hey, go ahead, go get a coffee today. Like, you know what I mean? I really am more diligent now since I ended the fast to pray and ask the Lord if it's something that
would be wise.
That would be wise.
Would be like,
or
excessive.
More of a blessing and more of a treat now instead of just because. Or if I'm going out to like meet you for coffee, then yes, I will get a coffee, but I'm not going to just go get a coffee every single day.
I mean, it got so bad was where I would like brew a cup of coffee to take in the car to go meet a friend for coffee.
Look at her, just random. I mean, it's the truth.
Confession time.
It is a stronghold. It can be an idol. It can be an addiction. Like it really can. That's the truth.
It can also be a blessing.
Right. And so we have to treat it as that.
Yeah.
Reel it in.
Okay. So, there was another thing that you were thinking about, Jocelyn.
Clothes.
Something that you've been thinking about.
The word clothed. I've thought about this for a while. And Ezekiel 16:10 talks about how I clothed you with jewels. I've clothed you with fine linen. I clothed you, right?
Okay.
I washed you, I cleaned you, and then I clothed you. And in my mind, it just never really impacted me. The word clothes never really impacted me. And God was like, look at all these things I've done and I've put on you. Like I do this for you. I want to do this for you. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Well, then he said, look up the word invest. And this happened to me about 6 months ago, but he's bringing it back up to my mind.
Invest.
And I was like, what? So I looked up the word invest in the Webster 1828, and it said closed.
Under invest.
And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? And all of a sudden I realized I invested in you. I invested and I put fine linen on you. I put jewels on you. And the Lord was like I did. I invested in you. I only invest on things and people that are valuable. Right. And the Lord was trying to get me to understand that I'm valuable to him in a very intimate, personal way by like, sure, I clothed you. I'm like, this is not really clicking. Like it doesn't click. But when he said, I invest in you because I invest in what is valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
What I'm thinking, what comes to mind is that he's not like, he didn't just like saving us was incredible. That he would die for us.
Yes.
And save us from eternal damnation and from ourselves. But not only does he save us, but he invests in us to make us gorgeous.
Right. And what does investment take? Investment takes sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. So if you are investing in something, you're sacrificing somewhere else to be able to pour in here because you see something here that is valuable. And like the Lord was showing me, that is you. Like you are so valuable that I sacrifice to invest all of that sacrifice into you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, whoa. It hit me on a whole other level that like he invests because he says we're valuable, because he sees something that we don't even see. He knows something we don't even know. How many times do you look at, you think about the stock market? Well, I'll sacrifice over here and I'll invest here because I see value in that.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly how he sees it. I don't know. I feel like I was supposed to give that example for somebody.
Sure.
So you're invested in. Closed.
And clothed.
Enclosed. Yep.
I don't know. As a creative, it's neat to think that he like making ourselves look nice or pretty or putting on the makeup. It doesn't necessarily mean vanity, but investing
in yourself. Yeah. Investing.
And that God loves that. Like he invests, he clothes us. He cares about all of these things. And so I don't know. It's kind of, I used to feel a bit of shame about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It's neat to think about that.
Yeah. And different. I love that perspective too. That's good. Very cool.
Very cool. So are we ready to transition
into our
next segment of devoted discussion?
Devoted discussion. And we're going to jump into another big C. Codependency.
What?
Oh, look at that. Let's just
dive in.
Okay. Yeah. So codependency is, how do I say this? It's a big topic for me.
Yeah, it's a big topic. And I love that Jocelyn is willing to go here because, she really invests and spends a lot of time with recovery in the recovery world. And so she has learned a lot about this. And I don't know, I feel like she's got a lot of good knowledge. So it's going to be fun. Well, yeah. It's going to be fun to hear you talk about it.
It's kind of, okay. So codependency is like my problem. Was my problem. It's what got me on my knees. Like, honestly, you know what I mean? It wasn't for me. It wasn't, a severe addiction. That was my addiction. My addiction was people pleasing and giving of myself for everybody else and not even focusing remotely on myself. So
I think a lot of women can relate.
Codependency was something that was birthed out of trauma, that was birthed out of a lack of self-worth, that was birthed out of abandonment, that was birthed out of rejection, criticism, and shame. So it was a way that I formulated, and it is a way that you formulate relationship and the way you just think that you have to operate in relationship, right? So basically, for my entire life, since I could literally I don't even remember a time that I wasn't codependent. Is the hard part. I was super codependent as a sibling to just give and give and give. Because I just thought that's what made relationships work. Like it was very one-sided. I just made it a bigger deal on my side. And that was just me shoving down a lot of myself, my trauma and my hurts and stuff. And I don't necessarily know why. It's just a trauma response.
So what does codependency really look like?
It looks like a lack of communication, a lack of boundaries. It looks like people pleasing. It looks like not standing up for yourself or not spending time nourishing yourself or self-reflecting. It looks like choosing into relationships that are one-sided. It also looks like allowing yourself to be in situations and relationships where you're being emotionally abused or physically or any of it's unhealthy relationships.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So how would one
struggling with this one?
How would one try to change patterns of codependency?
So
you mentioned communication and boundaries were two that popped out.
Yes.
For me.
And self-reflection. Right. So the first thing that I ever had to do with my codependency was recognize that I was in denial. Like recognize that I was in an unhealthy relationship, that I had many unhealthy relationships, and that I was like last on the totem pole. Yeah. I had put myself, not that other people were doing that, but
sometimes they do.
They just do what you lead them to do is part of the problem.
Yeah.
We allow them because we don't have boundaries. We don't communicate. We don't stand up for ourselves. Like it's a whole lot. But what happened was I recognized that I had been put at the very bottom of the totem pole by allowing it to happen, allowing other people to treat me that way. And then I was like, had come out of denial. First,
I had to come out of
denial that like I had been in that place for so long. And we're talking every single relationship I have to do this with. Like you have to come out of denial in every relationship because you have a bond and you have a relationship with somebody and you want to be in relationship with them and you love them and you feel like led to have this relationship, friendship, whatever. But you can still be codependent in every single relational situation.
Yeah.
Right. So having that coming out of denial moment of like, who am I in this? Am I being authentically myself? Am I standing up for myself? Am I communicating? Am I intimidated and living this relationship out of fear? That's another thing. Is this an equal balanced relationship? So and it doesn't have to be right now today because every relationship goes through different things.
Right.
But really choosing in to like understand what healthy relationship is.
Okay.
That's where I had to go to like say.
So first realize this relationship is not healthy. And then
I'm not healthy in relationships.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. I'm not. Because it's not the other person.
It's not necessarily.
Yes. It's like I'm not healthy in relationships with people because I keep habitually
feeling. Do you end up feeling run over?
Oh.
So you were just feeling like discarded and not heard or seen in all of your relationships.
Right. Invaluable. And then what happens is, here's the thing though, you feel like that, but you shame yourself because you think it's your fault because you didn't provide enough into the relationship.
So then you give more.
Yeah. So you just think
right.
You just think, well, this is happening in this relationship because I didn't put out enough, because I didn't give enough of myself. So like, no wonder why this isn't working. It's my fault. Because you just blame everything on yourself.
Man.
Yeah. So it's not it's not allowing other people to take responsibility for their stuff. And you don't know where the line is of what you need to take responsibility for because it's blurred. So coming out of denial is super important in that. And then choosing from that point on to learn what boundaries are. That was a really, really big deal for me.
I feel like that was key for me in some of my unhealthy relationships is learning. Yeah. It's just came down to what am I responsible for? And what are they responsible for?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And really learning about my soul, like being, my mind, my emotions and my choices are all mine. Like I am going to have to answer for all of that
stuff. Yeah.
And so I felt like that was kind of the basics once I could kind of grasp that in helping me with all of my relationships.
Right. And getting around people who have healthy relationships. That was another big thing for me. I didn't know that I wasn't in. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're in relationship, you can't see, but choosing to be witness and sit back and watch how healthy relationships flow and evolve and grow through seasons. Like that was like a really big deal for me to be witness to.
Okay.
People that I wasn't deeply connected to, but like, open myself up to see like how God moves in relationship.
To start noticing that.
Yeah. Like what's healthy communication? That's the other part.
Communication is big.
Mind blowing because a codependent doesn't really communicate for themselves. They try to just communicate for what they think is needed and what needs to happen
or what the other person wants to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't really stand up for themselves. And I'll give you an example of this. This is one thing that brought to mind is My car broke down last year, and for me and all my kids to fit in one car, we had to drive my roommate's car. Well, I am used to being in C control and driving and like stopping on somewhere if I want to stop somewhere, or just communicating to the person like, hey, I need to go here. So I'll just stop. Right. Well, the Lord, bless his beautiful heart, put me as the passenger. And I, for years, didn't know what it was like to be a passenger in recovery of codependency.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Then came this moment of like, oh no, I need to stop at Hobby Lobby, or I need to stop at the store. Like if we were out, like I want something, I need to do something. And I would have to, and this was stretching, and I don't expect everybody to understand this, but it was extremely hard for me to say, can you stop at this store on our way home? Like that was really, really hard for me to stand up and say that. And maybe she would say yes, and maybe she would say no. And I just assume that she would say no because I assume that I'm an inconvenience. So that's my mentality was, well, if you ask for anything, you're going to be an inconvenience. And since she didn't bring it up, like, you're an inconvenience to her.
Oh, man.
Right. So I had to work through that. So Lord let me be a passenger in her car for a year. And I'm like having to grind out this, like what it's like to sit in the passenger seat and communicate my needs and desires and wants.
Well, that's a good exercise.
Yes. And it was not fun. And I'm good now, but like
you got it.
I got it. Now I know how to do those things. But like I didn't know. Last year, I did not know how to be a passenger and ask and not expect to be rejected. Like I just didn't know.
Wow.
I would just go with the flow, what the other person wanted, and just kind of like, okay, well, they said no. Like I would ask maybe one person, they would go, no. I'm like, maybe next time. I'm like, okay. And it would just feel like, yep, because you're an inconvenience. So it's like that kind of stuff.
That's
just
hard.
Relational things that you don't think about. That's not something you would just normally think about. What? Did you think that? That's what I was asking. You wouldn't think that a normal person would have to work through being a passenger in a car?
It honestly, it is hard for me to feel like somebody is not being honest with me. As far as voicing what they need or what they want, or they are trying to tell me something that I want to hear versus something that they need.
Oh.
Does that make sense? Or voicing their true opinion.
So you just believe that everyone's voicing their true opinion?
I hope so. And if I can tell that they're not, I have a really hard time with that person.
Yeah.
I mean, there's explanations on, personality tests that show, that is something that's really important to it just really resonates with me, because if somebody is trying to fake something around me, I have a really hard time. And it bothers me when people don't say what they need.
Right.
And then I'm like, so then I'm responsible for.
Right. It's this dance, right? Like,
yeah,
because then we could just go with it. Like I've been in many relationships, basically a lot of relationships where the person just goes with my codependency and is like, okay, well, they didn't say anything, so we'll just go with it. But the reality is like, I was like internally struggling, but I live like this. Here's the thing. I lived like this all my life. And so nobody really knew if I was internally struggling or not. That was my personality. Do you know what I mean? Until the Lord was like, hey, so you got a lot of opinions and you got things that you want to do. And like, let's step up and ask for those things.
Hear those.
You know what I mean? Like it had to work through the trauma to be able to even be willing to go there.
Yeah.
And the thing about codependency, it's relational. So it doesn't just click, it's gone. It's like,
you have to continually work through it.
Yeah. Like every relationship, I have to evaluate and look and say, am I being codependent? Am I in this relationship because of fear? Am I in this relationship because intimidity? That's not even a word. What's the word? Intimidated. Am I in this relationship just because I feel like I am supposed to be? Is like, or do I truly love this person and I will continue to be in this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of grind. A lot of refinement and a lot of surrendering to like him
Yeah.
and letting him lead it, even when it doesn't make sense to my old self.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of this is like personalities. I think definitely trauma will play a role.
Well, trauma and rejection, all those things,
and just how we're
creates
naturally
personality.
kind of bent.
Yes. Character,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, that's my thought.
I mean, I think we all struggle with it at times, like wanting to please other people and not be authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a true struggle. And I think sometimes you could have codependent tendencies, but not be like codependent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like now I think I've realized, oh, I was codependent in this relationship, but I have codependent tendencies that I'm actively working on right now. So it doesn't mean I'm always codependent right now. It just means that like I have tendencies that are really getting pushed off and brushed off.
Sure.
And I personally think that is something I'm going to have to work on for a long time because that's how
you function
lived
for a long time. Yeah.
And I'm a giver, so I naturally can fall into that place of.
There's also so many beautiful things that comes out of that giving place.
Yes.
I mean, I there are things that I just I'm not aware of. There are needs that I'm not even aware of, that other personalities and characters are so much more compassionate about and can reach out and see and meet needs that I don't even like, that aren't even on my radar. And that really, it's impressive to me.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Like there's a compassion level I feel like I haven't reached.
That's what got me in trouble. Do you know what the Lord told me one time?
Tell me.
He said, Jocelyn, your problem is that you're too compassionate sometimes. Like you don't ask me where the line of compassionate, like where my compassion is, and you're letting your flesh compassion kind of overspill. And you need to know like where the Jesus compassion line is, so you're not like overspill. You know, because sometimes...
And I feel like my boundary line, like, nope, I'm not gonna open that line right there. I'm just gonna, and I need to make it a little more flexible and be a little bit more vulnerable.
Oh yeah, exactly. I hear that, and I need to reel it in. Gosh. You know, in a beautiful way, and it's just growth.
Yeah, and hallelujah also that there are different parts of the bodies that we can learn from, right?
Yeah, because I glean your boundaries. I am looking at people with good boundaries right now, and I'm like, okay, how do we communicate?
How do I open up more and love better?
So it's a gleaning kind of thing, and I am so thankful. I am really thankful for that, man. You know, because there are people in my life now where I'm like, wow, like they have really good, healthy boundaries. And I just respect that. And I'm in awe. I think I just look at it like,
There's another C that this makes me think of.
Oh, what's that? Sorry.
Companionship.
Oh, look, that just look at how that just led right over into that one.
Finish with companionship and the beautiful thing that like how relationships are so messy, right? And how we have to like think about those codependency tendencies and
have healthy companionship.
And what good camaraderie. Did I say that right?
Camaraderie
and companionship is so needed.
It is. It's like a warm like hug. I just love companionship.
Thanks for being a good companion.
Oh, look at her. Bless your heart. And I don't mean that in the Southern way.
Okay. Is that bad? Is the Southern way bad?
Yeah, they mean it in like a snarky, like, bless your heart. And I am Northerner, so I can say it. But when you have people who are in the South, and then you can't say it to them, and so I'll say, bless your heart, in the Northern way.
In the Northern way.
Or the Western, I don't know.
Sure.
In the
Northwest.
I mean it genuinely.
Here. Well,
thank you for being a good companion, Christine.
Bless your hearts. Thanks for watching and for engage in, and we would love to hear all of your thoughts. And what are some of your tendencies when it comes to codependency? We would love to hear.
That was
what?
That was quick on the tongue. I like that.
Join us for our live on February 28th, because we would love to just really engage with you.
Hear what you got to say. Like, let's talk about it for real.
Like, dig into some of these topics a little bit deeper.
Yeah, you have questions. Like, I think that's going to be fun. I'm excited for the live.
All right. Mark your calendars. Bye.
We're overjoyed that you've chosen to tune into this podcast. We're adding 2 special links to this episode. Click that first one if you want to learn about how to live in the spirit of power and walk confidently with the power of your choice while moving gracefully. You'll love the Posture of Power e-devotional within the Train in Truth Premium membership. Now, that second link will take you to a spoken word piece all about the spirit of power. This is what God has given us, not a spirit of fear and codependency, right? Now, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you leave a comment, you'll be sure to see us in the chat throughout the week. It's with so much gratitude we pray that you will be filled with the knowledge of His will, bearing fruit and being strengthened with endurance and joy. Godspeed, friend.